essentially, this was a project that I did in summer break with some of my friends and classmates. So we teamed up with a bunch of people from all over the world, and we sort of did this COVID youth project where we analyzed the COVID situation in Thailand. So today I'll be giving you guys like a snippet of the stuff that we did, the stuff that we researched. Yeah. Next slide. Okay, so these were the feelings we had for the initial government response, non-political. Yeah. So from the beginning of the pandemic, of course, specifically when it first came, which was in 2020, basically, Thailand had a pretty intense COVID relief response, which included these month-long intensive lockdowns, and we had these social distancing procedures, including our mask mandate. And eventually, we also established the CCSA, which is the Center for COVID-19 Situation Administration, and this basically offered a lot of daily information on the number of cases, the number of deaths, and etc., as well as where you could get treated. Yeah, and we found that this was quite effective, or more effective than some countries in sort of mitigating the infection rates of COVID cases, and this let Thailand open the country and its businesses later on in their later months of 2020 and earlier months of 2021. So we all thought that for this, its initial response by the government was quite decisive. However, there was a lot of talk of lack of hospital beds, oxygen tanks, and basically the necessary medical equipment as well as hospital beds needed to actually flatten the curve, so to say, and sort of treat the people with COVID-19. Yeah. Moreover, another one of the big problems was registration for COVID financial aid, as well as vaccination information, etc., which was largely done on digital applications. And this was quite hard for people in sort of more rural areas and the older generation who were not used to utilizing these digital applications. And this caused a lot of managerial and administration problems to obtain necessary aid and the necessary help needed for COVID-19. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is a story of, you guys know Neen. Neen, yes, everyone knows Neen. Neen had an uncle who got infected. This wasn't last month, sorry, this was like last month, a year ago. So it's a trend, it's a common trend for people in Thailand who get infected to take sort of the more traditional medicines that they're more comfortable with. So in this case, her uncle took the green kaireta, which is a traditional Thai herb. A lot of my family members took Chinese medicines, like, don't know if I'm saying this correctly, lian hua, something like that, yeah, to help with the effects of COVID-19. And the symptoms that her uncle faced was a loss of smell and taste, difficulty breathing, and experiencing certain chest pains. And the whole family was very worried because the death rate was rapidly increasing, and there was a lot of news about people who needed more hospital equipment and supplementary hospital equipment to sort of keep them alive and keep them moving. Next slide. Okay, so lastly, this is, we discussed what we would like to see, what we had hoped for in terms of the government response, in terms of when the pandemic would be over, and in terms of how we could improve for future pandemics. Next slide, please. Okay, so regarding future plans, of course, we talked about the lack of these medical equipment. So in the future, for more pandemics, resources should be reallocated for more short-term as well as long-term sustainability. And this can be done by redistributing the government's budget from things like military spending, political campaigns, to more on the healthcare side and on the spreading awareness of medical information. Regarding government performances, short-term methods could include increasing spending of stimulus checks, as I said previously, as well as hospital equipment and things like mRNA rapid vaccines, RNA for these types of different medical vaccines and medicines. And then also for prevention measures, we should include more measures like wearing and donating personal protective equipment, PPE masks, etc., refraining from going outdoors, the classic social distancing procedures. And then regarding social issues, we've seen that a lot of the younger generation, as well as the older ones, have developed a more sedentary lifestyle since we've all experienced home isolation. So we're all just at home playing games, procrastinating, like Nini said. Yeah. So we should try to maximize productivity by finding opportunities to express our passions, to really make new hobbies. For example, yoga, doing ting, reading fan fiction. I don't know what you guys do. I'm too old for this kind of stuff. Okay, so our plans of action, participating in online volunteering, advocacy projects, or for the youth to speak up. Like, for example, my friends and I took the initiative to help make this project with people all over the world. And there are so many different ways where students can pitch in for medical crises such as this.